Our final question is, of course, to discuss on what should be, of course, the measures that South Africa should take, what should be the position, and then other Africans, Pan-Africanists, how can, what should be their position, our position as well. But before that, I want you to give us your view. What will be the consequence? I mean, this tension, what do you think will it come to? Will it diffuse quickly, or if it continues to escalate, then what are the consequences? It's I mean, the usual procedures are already being spoken out by the US, sanctions, travel ban, freezing accounts, this and that. Well, we know that. I mean, there's nothing new in it, but if it does so, because it's dividing South Africans, people are, I read some of the comments, and South Africans are trying to separate ANC from the South African people. And is that a good thing for the South African government, which is actually really a good result for the US if they really separate? So what will be the consequence? And then we go to what should be the position of South Africa.
I believe that the United States has a lot of investments, of course, in South Africa, and definitely, if it decided to start using sanctions against South Africa, it would hurt South Africa because it has a lot of corporations in South Africa. But it would also hurt, the United States itself. Let us not get this, twisted and think that it would only hurt South Africa. It would hurt the United States itself because the United States is already in an economic depression, and that depression, as what has contributed to it, is because of the United States behavior of applying sanctions to everyone it doesn't agree with. You see what happened with Russia, that majority of the United States corporations pulled out of Russia, and now we are seeing an economic depression. In the United States, banks collapsing and all this. We discussed this in the previous, in some of the previous analysis which we did, and we encourage, of course, our viewers to go out there and look for those analyses which we have done in the past 2 weeks about the United States dollar and the collapse of the banks in the United States. So it would hurt the United States also. It would hurt South Africa. But we have seen that South Africa is standing on a moral position. Morally, South Africa, this is what it cares about the most, because South Africa's economy it has some challenges right now. It has not been growing enough. It has been growing by 1.5%, even though the other African economies have been growing by leaps and bounds by 7-8%, 6%. If you go to places like Uganda, Ghana, they have been growing even to, sometimes by 7%. Ethiopia, sometimes 8%. This one. So South Africa has already been having those challenges. Definitely, it has been having a challenge. But again, we have seen President Cyril Ramaphosa move across the continent in the past. I believe that these have been moves by South Africa to try to strengthen its position. We saw that during his visit to Kenya, they were able to come up with a deal that will be able to merge South Africa Airways with Kenya Airways, both airlines which have been, of course, struggling economically and even in performance, as we have seen that South Africa has been posting a lot of losses. Even Kenya Airways has been posting a lot of losses. So there is that, attempt to merge these two airlines. And what has he been achieving? What has he been trying to achieve? What he's trying to achieve is trying to connect South Africa with the regional economies. You saw that he invited President Museveni of Uganda. These are some of the major trading partners. He invited Kenya, invited President Museveni. He visited Kenya. President Ramaphosa visited Kenya. He invited Museveni. He also invited, I think, President Suluhu of Tanzania. They have had these conversations with President Suluhu. So he's trying to connect these East African region economies, major economies, with South Africa, so that in case these sanctions have come up, South Africa is still resilient to be able to withstand them. We can see Zimbabwe has been able to withstand for more than 20 years, has been able to withstand sanctions because it had the support of the regional, countries, especially South Africa has been a major support, a major bloc which has, supported SADC, countries have supported Zimbabwe immensely during this struggle when it has been going through the unjustified and racist illegal sanctions by the United States and its European allies. So what we are seeing is that South Africa has been strengthening that position, and South Africa, I think that it has also noticed the shift in power. That is why you see that the foreign, policy has been very assertive. You just spoke here about, for example, Madam Naleda Pandor in how she's been speaking, when people like Senator Blinken, Secretary Blinken visited South Africa. She was very firm in her talk, in her speech. Even when she went to the United States, she went to give the speech, the South African speech at the United Nations General Assembly. So you could see that the position is very strong in the support, for example, of Palestine. So they are not going to abandon that just because the United States is putting up threats. They're not going to abandon that position. South Africa is not going to abandon that position just because the United States and Europe are pushing threats. And South Africa knows that it is on the right side of history. Morally, it is on the right side of history in the support for Palestine, in the support of all the other countries that it's supposed to support, and in its position, because South Africa has continuously maintained the position that the war in Ukraine should be solved peacefully. The United States, on the other hand, is continuing to fuel the violence, is continuing to push for violence in Ukraine and pushing more weapons, even though Russia has agreed that they should negotiate. Russia is willing and ready to negotiate. The United States is saying they should not negotiate, is continuing to push weapons. But then the same country is blaming others in case they want to support Russia. And yet it is already also supporting Ukraine and pushing billions and billions of dollars of weapons in Ukraine together with Europe. They just, released the tanks, the one of the most advanced battle tanks. The United States has just released it. The Abrams is going to be supplied to Ukraine. Germany also released those tanks and supplied some of the, most modern battle tanks. The Leopard 2 is going to be released to Ukraine. Britain, so all these countries, they are releasing more weapons and billions of dollars of weapons every day, but they are telling everyone that all the others, they should not give help to Russia, and yet for them they are giving. So it's the same tactics which were being used against China. If you remember that they were threatening China, that China should not help. If it there helps, Russia, all these threats were, being used. But I think that South Africa will not abandon its position, its moral position where it is standing. It is not willing to jeopardize its relationship with the BRICS countries, and the fact that it is the one which is also hosting the BRICS summit this year. So this is the very reason South Africa is going to stick to its guns and is not going to give in to any threats from the United States.
Thank you very much, Kwame. The only thing you did not touch is maybe in general the position of Africa in terms of institution AU. What should it be? When countries continue to be bullied by the US just because they stand on their feet and have that courage, bravery to say no and speak. And choose their friends with who they want to be befriended. What should be the position in terms of AU or African leaders in general, Africa itself, Africans, people like us, have the platform, Pan-Africanists?
Yeah, so for us to, I remember what Mo Ibrahim mentioned during the Mo Ibrahim leadership summit, which happened in Nairobi. He mentioned that the governments need to the African governments need to support the African civil society and empower it, and especially those governments which are in a position to understand that the continent needs to work together, needs to be unified. Because this was some of the, these were some of the things. These were some of the things which Mo Ibrahim emphasized during the Mo Ibrahim leadership weekend, which happened in Nairobi. So those governments in South Africa, and it is very good that even though the EFF, the Economic Freedom Fighters of South Africa, of Julius Malema, is in the opposition, it's very good that it was also able to take on that position to support, the government, the ANC. It supported the government. It spoke in support of the South African government, and that is a very good sign that even though there may be some little opposition, some little groups which may support the other side, but at least one of the major opposition, parties in the country, at least on this position, is able to work with the ruling government, which is the ANC, and that is the ANC, which is a very good sign. This is a very good sign. So from now going forward, we have to remember as Africans that for us to defeat colonialism, which was being, in fact, as we've mentioned, the apartheid regime, this colonialism, which was being supported by the United States and Europe, because Europe was the one colonizing, we are going to have to continue to work together. We have to understand that we have to work together. We have to tag team. We have to hold the hands in order for us to defeat this kind of bullying, this kind of colonialism. If South Africa, the sanctions are imposed on South Africa, we do not need to wait like how we waited for 20 years without supporting Zimbabwe. We have to immediately come in, and even right now, we have to extend our support. We have to extend our support to the government in South Africa. If you need to write it. If you need to come to your platform and talk about it and speak about it on YouTube platforms, on radio stations, come out and speak about it and give support to South Africa. In the same way, we saw that we supported Ethiopia. A lot of Ethiopians came out and supported, a lot of Africans came out and supported Ethiopia. This is what we need now. We need to work together as Africans. On the civil society level, we need to work together to understand when imperialism is trying to attack us and is trying to attack any one of us on the African continent, whether it is Mali, whether it is Burkina Faso, we need to do that. So going forward, we need to understand that the only way for us to defeat the bully and the colonialist United States and its allies is for us to work together as Africans. We have to organize and work together. We have to tag team. We have to tag team in order for us to defeat the United States. We have to stop rationalizing. I've heard a lot of people rationalizing about when we are talking about unifying Africa as a single state, working together as Africans and rebuilding ourselves. People rationalizing and saying, oh, we have 1,000 languages, we have 20,000 languages, we have 2,000 languages. When we come together as Africans, we are not looking at unifying the languages into one languages. We are looking at providing the necessities of life, working together with all of us to provide to us on the continent and even the African diaspora, all the necessities of life: good health, good education, good roads, good infrastructure. These are the things, good accommodation, water, everyone should have water, everyone should have energy, everyone should have communication. We are not looking at abolishing languages. And with the advent of technology, which has come in our generation, we should be able to bridge the gap between the languages. Whether you are from Egypt, whether you are from Algeria, and I'm from South Africa, we should be able to bridge that gap because the technology has come to bridge that gap. So the idea of rationalizing that we cannot work together as Africans because of this and that reason, I think we have to abandon it. We have to abandon it. And majority of the people should immediately abandon it because we can work together. There's no reason why we cannot work together. And these are some of the things which Mo Ibrahim was addressing, when he was having his recent weekend, a leadership weekend in Kenya. These were some of the things he was asking. Why can't we work together? And he's from Sudan, imagine. But he's asking, why can't Africa work together? What is the problem? What is the problem with you people that you can't work together? Why do you want to be in the corners where you are going to be bullied? These bullies, the United States and Europe, they are doing whatever they are doing, bullying each of the small countries, because we have chosen to be in the corner, working in our corners. We don't want to work together. And these bullies, they get a chance. They celebrate. They go on the side and they celebrate that they have now a chance to bully people who have decided to, put their back and put their faces in the corner and work alone instead of working with their brothers. So these are things which we have to bridge as Africans, and we have to be very realistic, with these issues. We have to be very serious with them, because this is a matter of life and death. This is a matter of survival. If we cannot do it, we will be colonized, and will be colonized in a very, very much brutal way. Thank you very much, Mahlet.
Thank you very much, Kwame, for that, words and sound. It was really important to remind us also, everybody think, we've got more than 2,000 language, and then that doesn't unite us. Yes, it's important to underline. It's not about abolishing. It's enough. That's the colonizers, what they have done in terms of erasing our history and our language and everything. The African unity is totally against that. But yeah, what I was thinking, actually, speaking of the African unity, I was just reflecting on this today, in the daytime. We have leaders who are Pan-African leaders, and those leaders, you see them usually being attacked by the US and its allies in the West. And then it's easier because we are still 55 sovereign states in our little territory. Then to keep us like that will help the US now to come and say to the people of for example, South Africa is the topic for today. The South African people, look, this is what, there is this alienating of the leader from the people, and then attacking, demonizing him, and then creating that mob against that leader. But if we really value, even if at this point, those who are opposing President Ramaphosa, for whatever reason it is, if you tell them, me as an Ethiopian, you as a Ghanaian, that actually, from the outside, when you look at it, the guy has done this and that, he's a Pan-African leader, they don't even want to grasp it. But if there was that goal, or that unity for us, we are under the umbrella of African unity, then you don't look at what's happening really to the people of South Africa, but you will look at to the bigger picture. It will be very easier. Otherwise, it's always, you see them, again and again falling in that trap. Whenever they are Pan-African leader, there is this opposition that they face in their own country, and then finally, of course, using their own people and assassinating them. So it's really a savior, the African unity, that principle, that unity, that thing produced by Kwame Nkrumah. It's I kind of it always seemed for me like very depths. But today I kind of got, the edge of it, and then like, okay, this is what he meant by unite or perish, So it's really, really, I don't know.